This is a CloudCasa interface here, and this is where all the magic happens from a data protection migration perspective. But Jesse had given me access into his organization here. CloudCasa is a multi-tenanted application, so I can switch between organizations that I'm invited to. In this case, I have access to the Spectro Cloud organization and access to the resources, the backups and clusters that Jesse had provisioned there. And with regards to the backup workflow, he went ahead and installed some agents, some packs within his clusters that we can use for our demonstration purposes here. In this case, we have a cluster called VMO-JBEN, which contains the underlying KubeVirt stack that's able to host those containerized VMs. So, users can have VMs on-prem. They decide that they want to access more compute from an Azure-based perspective so they can migrate up those VMs. And this is all possible via cloud-native deployment and implementation. So if I drill down into this cluster that was created within this organization, I can see the cluster ID that was provisioned for that Spectro Cloud pack within Palette. And once the cluster is now marked as active, meaning we can inventory, look at all the components of the cluster, this is where we can define the backup of the entire cluster, or we can drill down, select individual namespaces, individual resource types, define how we want to make that copy. But in our case, we want to back up the VMs, right? So we have a VMO, virtual machine orchestrator, running within Spectro Cloud here. We can select VMs to back up, and here we can see those VMs that reside within that cluster. So here I have a VM residing in my default namespace called VMO Linux 1. I want to back that up, or let's say I want to migrate it. I can go ahead and confirm that selection here, and then choose how I would like to back that up, either by taking a local snapshot, local CSI snapshot on the storage, or I can copy that backup or that snapshot to an object storage location of my choosing. So that's if you're dealing with applications or storage that doesn't have CSI fully implemented, we can read directly from the underlying PVC or underlying host volume. So this is something that you're not limited to if you don't have CSI snapshots available. We'll just read data directly from the PVC here as well. So once I have that source selection selected, I can add a policy for how I want to back up this VM, either a combination of hourly, daily, weekly schedules. I can also custom cron schedule it. I can safe lock the snapshot here as well to prevent other users from deleting the snapshot from my organization by enabling safe lock here. And so in my case, I'll just run it ad hoc. You give the backup job a name. We can call it backup VMO Linux 1. And do -2, and then just simply click create and run here. And that will resolve the VM down to the cluster, down to the underlying storage. Let me jump to my dashboard here, where I'll show you a backup has already completed for this VM. So I can look at my activity log, I can see what exactly happened. So we're backing up the custom resource definitions for the cluster. We're also backing up the persistent volumes, right, that are related to that VM here. And this is going to be an incremental forever backup. So we take one base backup, and then we're only backing up the change blocks. But here you can see that my VMO Linux 1 has been backed up successfully. So at this point, I can go and perform a restore of that VM, and that's just done by going to clusters restores here and defining a new restore. I've backed up my VMO-JBEN 1 cluster here, so you can see that there's a catalog of all my recovery points listed here, and I can just select the recovery point that I want to restore or migrate this VM from, and click on next. And from this screen, I'm able to restore an individual file within the PVC. From a VM perspective, we'll be able to restore individual files within the virtual machine VM disk in our next release. So stay on the lookout for that. But in my case, if I just want to restore the full VM here, I can use our recovery point browser to select and drill down into the virtual machine that have been backed up. I see that my VMO Linux 1 machine has been backed up. And now I can define the destination where I want to restore that to, either back to the original cluster, or I can select a new cluster listed here. I can transform that restore by renaming the namespaces. Let's say I want to set a new name for that namespace that I'm restoring, or just simply add a custom prefix or postfix of a dash restored, let's say 0909. So that'll be the suffix that I automatically add to that custom namespace. And then from a storage class mapping perspective, if you are restoring to a different cluster, you know that those storage classes that might have been in the original cluster might not exist anymore, right? Or you want to restore to a completely different storage class, we can make that transformation here. In our VM definitions or in our restore definition, as well as how we want that VM to behave when it comes up online, clearing the MAC addresses, if you want it to be powered on or off when it comes online. And that's basically it from a restore perspective. You have a post app hook restore that you can configure. This is just a post script that you can run after your backup completes. But you'll just give your restore job a name and select to run now. And I just ran a restore for right before this call started. I can see that restore has completed successfully here. And if I drill down into the activity log, I can see that it went about restoring the resources, restoring the VMs to its transform namespace. I can see the persistent volume details restored. So my VM is now in that restored state at this point. So if I jump to my Spectro Cloud, right, interface, my palette interface here, I can go into the clusters that are listed here. I can take a look at the new namespace that I restored to. So this would have been default restored 0909. And I can see that that VM has been restored with its, and is in that halted or stop state with its persistent volume claims already provisioned, and the data has been restored. So at this point, I can just drill down and start my VM, and that is my restore in a nutshell.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for walking through that.